is now being recorded. You can plug in on that, Jason, if you want. Two strengths, two weaknesses, and then I think what we should listen for is anything that's a trend. Like we kind of identified, something similar to that, and then that will help us ultimately arrive at a product of some sort. So Dawn asked if she could go first. And so we'll hear from you, and I'll try to take some notes that what we've got going on. So
I did totally ask if we could go first.
Dawn, you have the floor.
Well, we are teachers, and we really didn't come up with strengths and weaknesses. We're just going to be bossy and tell you what we think.
Okay. Good.
We did notice that we are above average in our administration versus the norm. But with that, we would like administration needs to be more defined, especially now where we have two principals and an and a superintendent. It's like, well, I don't know if we're overthinking it, but we probably are, but that was one of our suggestions.
Wait, is that the same thread that Brandy was talking about when it's like you say administration, but what is that? Is it the elementary, middle, high, or the district level?
Yep. It does say that administration is very approachable, but then it also says, it seemed like there was some contradictions in good points versus what we need to work on. For example, teachers feel our students are safe, but yet it ranked high there, but yet ranked lower in the bullying category. So to us, that's kind of contradicting each other. There's a gray area we thought of, back to dividing principal elementary, principal high school, superintendent, of where to go to with your concerns. And we kind of feel like it was back and forth. And then we also came up with, we would like to see the difference between the teachers of high school, middle school, and elementary, because a couple of them, 10 teachers didn't answer.
Yeah.
A couple of the questions, they were related more towards if the student was ready for college. So out of the 29 that answered, only 20 answered that question. So 9 teachers didn't answer. So were those elementary teachers that just felt like they didn't need to answer? They weren't prepared to answer? Or were they 9 high school teachers who didn't want to answer? So we kind of thought that was kind of confusing in those questions.
Okay.
But we also decided that because of how this survey was answered by our teachers, maybe it came about if we asked our teachers to answer questions more like quarterly with the survey and brought it back to the teachers with that data. Maybe it was more of, it was in a bad day, maybe it was something heavy going on that week when they answered those questions. And so, they were going to answer more negatively, or it was a great week and they answered more positively. But then if we brought that data back to the teachers and shared that out versus waiting for the teachers to ask for that data, if we brought it back to those teachers and said, here's what was said, what can we do collectively to improve that?
It just gives teachers more of a voice.
Yeah.
They feel like they're being heard when they can sit together to take the results. And then with the whole climate survey, if it's more frequent, then you can get a better touch on how people are feeling throughout the year, which would just help, I think, target maybe some professional development. Like I was suggesting, February, like you said, is a really rough time of the year for teachers.
Mhm.
And so if everybody during that time of the year is feeling not great about their job, it'd be a great time to bring in like an inspirational speaker
Mhm.
just for the teachers so that, they remember kind of their why and all that kind of stuff. So just more climate throughout the entire year for teachers might change the feedback a
And we kind of came up with that idea, sorry, Susan, because it was so contradictive throughout the survey. We felt that teachers were asked, answering positive, but then turning around and somewhat the same question, answering it in a negative light. So if we could target those items at certain times of the year, maybe that would help our teachers better.
So valuable use of time, do you think, during a PLC to examine the data with our teachers?
I think so. As a teacher, I kind of feel like we really, and I know time is a huge issue for everybody, but I just, during our book studies and all, I know that the teachers I worked with absolutely loved that time talking with each other, even if it wasn't very directed, but I just think we need more time to collaborate and share with each other, whatever the topic is. And it's not happening enough, I don't think. So more frequent time for teachers to get together and, talk about surveys or, just whatever, our goals are, whatever we need to focus on. But yeah, the PIRs where we had those book studies were really valuable to teachers. I think more even on like a personal level, just being able to talk with each other and share. So just personal feedback.
Yeah, and just to, I think reiterate, so we talked, I think, not this year as much, but last year, I talked about that work with John Hattie, who's done like these meta-analysis of all, like what impacts learning in schools. And the number one thing year after year is always like collective teacher efficacy. And teachers feel like they have the power, to control and make positive change. Just that feeling
Right.
is what impacts learning the most. So I do think that it might almost decrease your sense of self-efficacy if you do a survey, because now in your head you're thinking like, oh great, I did the survey, nothing's ever going to happen,
Well, that's what
So if you don't come back to, those groups, I think that's what we're doing here, but maybe there is something for teachers.
But will the teachers ever see this?
Exactly, probably not, unless we
No,
make
they
that specific effort.
Yeah, because that's what I was telling Don too. I was looking at, if every teacher sees that bullying is kind of an issue, then on an individual level, in my classroom, I'm gonna address that. And then overall, that's just gonna up our score because everyone's more aware of it, even at the classroom level.
And that's where we came up with, elementary those kids weren't asked, but the teachers, out of the 29 that answered them, were they mostly elementary? And so they're seeing bullying? Or was it mainly the high school teachers answering that? So if we split that out between high school teachers, middle school, elementary, you could target that group more.
Mhm.
Maybe Joey's group doesn't need to be hitting so hard on the bullying. They need to be hitting more on, something else.
Okay, anything else from your guys' group? We can chime in later too if we need to.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, like I said, we didn't really come up with strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah,
We kind of just pulled it all together and told you what we thought.
I put it in overall neat way.
Yes, yes. Do what we say, read our minds.
All right, Mandy and Stacy, do you guys want to go next?
We did pull out strengths and weaknesses,
Sorry. We like to be special back here.
So one thing kind of, we broke it out into middle school and high school and just kind of looked through that. A strength on both middle school and high school was respect for teachers and feeling safe at school. Weaknesses were fairness, conflict resolution, teachers not executing discipline fairly amongst kids, So some kids get away with things that other kids don't. A weakness across both middle and high school was the food. And student culture, like respect for different races. I don't remember how else that question.
And that one was more negative in middle school,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Like,
Yeah,
kind of
I know.
strikingly. So.
Is it just races or race, culture, religion? Yeah.
It says students in this school respect each other's differences, for example, gender, race.
And then kind of like got into all of the comments, positive and negative. There were a lot of comments, more so in the middle school, but some in the high school about the positive of extracurriculars
That's strength.
as a strength.
In middle school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Say something. Yeah, food was a lot in the comments too.
Half of high school kids don't even eat the food. So would it 3 kids answer that? I mean, they all leave. Right? The ones that don't like the food are leaving. They're not eating it.
You know, but
You know?
they still walking for the food.
Yeah, they just want to leave
Yeah,
the
they
food
go
and go
down
drive around. That's a totally biased question. I don't agree.
Yeah. I think that our work is probably so much in, retooling the food service program. I think that we have, not that that's not an important issue, clearly, but, and we talked about this a lot. We offer pretty much like a comfort food, a school lunch. It's definitely not five-star cuisine, by any means, but casseroles, burgers, it's the traditional. And I think they do a pretty good job. I eat hot lunch every day. And I think the most important thing that's probably not reflected in there is that, and I share this with this group, our kitchen staff, like, it truly cares about kids. Like, they're here for kids, at one parent, and then, two that, Laura, is it Grandma?
There's a grandparent, yeah, Diane.
And she's here for a good time.
Yeah.
And maybe.
And it's very, very sanitary. That's huge to me.
But I mean, what high school kid isn't going to complain about food?
Right, they all eat
Yeah.
different things. So I saw a viral video of how school lunches are doing whatever. So I dug into Montana's, right? Because I wanted to know if this was true or whatever. And when you go to the OPI and they take you to the food service thing, whatever, they actually have pictures of schools' lunches. Like, I think it's Reed Point submitted like 5 or 6 pictures of what their trays. Is that something maybe to get parents on board with what school lunch really is compared to what maybe their elementary or middle school is?
Oh, I see what you're
Take a
saying.
picture, post it to Facebook and say, wow, you see the tray, and do that and maybe let parents see it, because like, I'm not gonna come up and eat lunch with my kids. One, I don't want to, and whatever.
Yes.
So I'm not a parent,
You're lunch
but I am one. Paxton, he was in 6th grade. He comes home all the time and tells me about the pink chicken. So I do hear about it. Casey's a high schooler. He didn't eat, so his opinion meant nothing. But maybe do that so the parents can actually see, what's going on the trays, what the kids are seeing, and then we as parents can have that conversation with the kids.
Yeah.
Is the salad bar open to like 6 through 12 or
All of them.
little ones too?
I'm pretty sure.
The kind of mini salad bar
Yeah.
is open to the littles.
Yeah, so they can, I don't think they're forced to eat everything on their plate. I think they're encouraged to try their main course first. And then if they don't care for it, they're welcome to take as many trips back to the salad bar as they would like. And there's always fruit and vegetables and, right, Mr. Richard?
Yes,
Mhm.
and then on Fridays, the staff salad bar then gets opened up to the elementary kids to eat up. for the weekend.
3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. Yeah.
Which is always like potato salads and they home make stuff in the kitchen. I think it's great. That's a good idea. Send out
But
pictures.
most kids don't like homemade stuff anymore. They like the processed corn dog, you
Well,
know.
their favorite is the little sandwich that's pre-made peanut butter and jelly that's
Uncrustable.
crustable. That's their
See,
favorite.
But, and I do get disappointed when I see that kind of the Lunchables. That to me makes my heart sink a little bit because, you know, I don't see those as good lunches.
But that's what the kids would be like.
Right,
That's what the kids
right.
would.
Yeah. But
It's funny.
I mean, I would echo a little bit too on the contradictoriness of it, and I think maybe that is just a survey format or that it's not as targeted, but I mean, I think it's really good that both middle school and high school are saying that 85% feel safe at school.
Mhm.
But then when you get, if you're looking at the weakness that discipline is not being executed fairly, then that really contradicts that you're feeling safe. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So
What takeaways did you guys take from like a curricular or an academic focus, course offerings or rigor? Anything kind of pop out on that?
there were a lot of Stacey about the AP, more AP
What would be-
offerings.
Well, can I comment on that? Because after looking at all the questions and all the information on here, I do feel like this is almost more of a climate survey than an academic survey. So where is the focus on the actual academic piece?
Mhm.
Because the question about the courses that are offered, that is
Yeah.
extremely broad.
Yeah.
It doesn't say, I feel like I'm really learning math, or I feel like I'm really learning the English skills that I need to go to, you know what I mean? It doesn't really seem very focused on academic at all, really.
Mhm. Yeah, those would have been more. We did get a lot of comments, and some of them were filtered out, but a lot of comments in the written comments about math, about English. You know, those would have been more, I think, focused in there. So a lack in the survey itself. I think the things that we saw were the course offerings are diverse, homework. Then there was the question on I'm ready for college or I'm ready for my career. I think that's it. You know, so maybe is the recommendation maybe to get a little bit more
More academic.
in the survey to get us a better.
wondering if there was a way to track student goals, like incoming freshman, 8th grade, at the end of your 8th grade year, can you do an incoming interview and have them set goals and what their expectations of high school are? And then the seniors that graduate, do an exit interview with them. Like, what did you learn in your 4 years here? Drill down some of this stuff from the people who went through it. And then you can take how they felt as a freshman, what they thought high school was gonna be like, and what their true experience here was. And you guys, I think, will see more of what's going on in the hallways and more of what's going on in the classrooms. Because like right now, Casey didn't take this in class. The seniors took it at home because something happened the day they were supposed to take it or something. So it was an email. But I don't think the kids are gonna tell you everything they want to say on this. But I think outgoing seniors that no longer have to worry about certain things are gonna be a little more open to having conversations. And I think the 8th graders not knowing what to expect, I think you're gonna get a big picture of what they think high school should be like, what they've heard, what they're expecting, the excitement, whatever. And then, like I said, then you can compare that to what their 4 years truly were for them. And you can maybe see where are things disconnected, where are we running into snags.
You know what we could do, and like we did that, I did it some years, we had all the, like, the first day or, rather than class, part of the first morning, the incoming freshmen would meet with the senior, and we set them up ahead of time. So that senior knew that the freshman they were gonna have, and then we talked to the seniors beforehand, so it's like, give them good advice, take this a little seriously. And, and in that, they could bring up some of those things like classes. And some kids would take it seriously, would say, take all the classes you can, or don't do this, or be an extracurricular, or, try and think. But it kind of helped. And then that senior too was supposed to kind of mentor them, the first part of the year, till they kind of got acclimated to high school.
Well, I think that's
We did that.
part of guidance counseling as well. It's whether you have seniors leaving or you have freshmen coming in, those freshmen, they don't know. They're relying on the guidance counselors to start guiding them in the direction they want. and what might best fit those kids
That's
instead of
something
just kind of
that
throwing
could
them to the
do.
wolves.
I did it, but, you know, it's definitely a way to start getting them on track with some things.
But do we have a true guidance counseling program? I mean, when kids come up and register next week, is the guidance counselor gonna sit down with them and say, okay, what's your goals? What are you aiming for? If so, this is the schedule you should be taking. You know, like I had a question about the weighted points. When do those kids see those? How do they know if they're in the running in the top 10? How do they know if they're 15 points and instead of taking a study hall, they should maybe take this class to stay in the running for salutatory and valedictory? Those conversations, from what I understand, are not happening. They literally go up and they circle on the chart the classes they want to take and they're thrown into those classes. So unless the families say, you know, we need to sit down and chat about this, I don't think those conversations are one-on-ones with the guidance counselor. So to me, I feel like we don't have a true guidance counselor position. We have somebody who does that stuff, but only when asked upon or if necessary. It's not something, you know, that was a question I had wrote down for today was, you know, these classes, you know, one of the things that we talk about is the range of classes keeps coming up, range of classes. Well, you know, is anybody actually sitting down with the kids and talking about these classes? You know, do they know what they're taking? Did the kids know what senior prep was before they signed up for senior prep? Because I thought it was a prep period for her to work with the senior class stuff. I did not know it was a JMG style class. So when are they told, you know, this is your master schedule and this is what each class is, you know, before they register? Or is that something, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like that information isn't anywhere.
Yes. Yeah, I think we're,
Course descriptions.
yeah, and I think that's a document that we need to improve upon, right? Like a course catalog or something like that. It's not, that can very well come out of this conversation. That's a document that needs work. What I do feel like, we made an improvement upon, was our, career pathways document that you'll see. When students register, so that is a new document to us, and it needs to be. This is gonna be the first year that we've had it as like a supplemental when kids register. And I don't have it here, maybe, but we can take a look at it after the meeting, or I can go grab it. What that does is outline for kids the freshman year. This is like the battery of classes that you have to take, right? Because we had a parent come in, you know, last year as a first time, freshman parent. And it involves parent, right? Like in the system, in the school, and, you know, was kind of like unknown on, do we sign up for government? But if you're in the system, it's like, no, that's a senior level. So we outlined all that. Like, here's what a freshman, you know, irrespective of what path you want to go down. Then as a sophomore, junior, senior, that's like page 1. And then to try to make a step in this direction, let's take ag ed, for example, right? Like if you want to, you know, maybe go to college, ag science or something like that, we have a pathway. All right, take that battery of classes as a freshman, then you're going to take ag 1, right? And then you still have 2 more electives to take. And we outline ag 1, 2, 3, 4, then welding. And so we do have I think we've made a step in that direction. So that'll be there when kids come in to register. And then on the back side, it's like worksheet, like my plan, right? To fill that in. And so parents can better kind of like engage as opposed to just circling, you know, the random stuff or the path of least resistance.
Right.
Oftentimes is, I know when I went through, you know, that's kind of what you're looking for. I think that is a good recommendation. That could turn into a SMART goal. And I think it fits with what Jason was talking about, identified that we're a little weak on career prep and college prep from students and parents, both thinking that. It's not to use it as a cop out though, but we are. I think sometimes when we offer too much, right, you get situations where you're not being responsible with your human resources either. Right? Way too many offerings. You know, you got 1 kid here, 2 kids in this class. So you do have to try to kind of find those focuses, and hopefully those 5 kind of career pathways that we've identified get, you know, seats.
Well, I think that a lot of that is the Apex Online.
Yeah.
It gives us that tool
Yeah.
for, because I would think we would want to focus on what we are able to offer and do that very well.
Mhm.
And some of the other stuff, the online technology and stuff kind of hopefully helps fill that gap.
Yeah. Brittany, Marilyn, Mike, do you guys want to speak out?
So we kind of,
Do you guys have parents?
we had parents, yes. And we kind of dove deep and kind of compared some of the parents with some of the students, because the high school students and the parents looking at this, they matched pretty well. For our strengths, we came up with, you know, what the quadrant for strengths basically said, that the parents feel that the office staff is helpful, the school building is kept clean, and that they feel comfortable visiting the school, which we think goes along with the question too, that the admin's approachable, that, you know, had high marks, and that the kids feel safe. We thought all of that was kind of lumped in together the same. We did find it weird that the school building was kept clean, but the school grounds got low marks, so we weren't sure what that was all about. One of those things, it's a discrepancy, you can, nobody, there isn't anything that tells us why.
Sure.
So,
We need a fence around the playground, we'll change that.
Yeah, maybe there was a timing issue
Yeah.
going on.
yeah. So those are the strengths. The areas for improvement, obviously, drug and alcohol use is huge, and it's huge across the board. We found it interesting that high school, middle school teacher, and parents, in fact, the parents and the teachers were basically identical for their markings, which means obviously there is a problem and we see it. The second one we did, we kind of lumped them together because we thought they were the same. The range of classes, the prepping for job, college, or life after school are kind of for us one and the same. Like, if you're being prepped for college or taking the classes, you need to do that, so. Or a job, or whatever you're gonna do, yep. And then we kind of went back and forth on putting down the bullying, but it kind of goes along the lines with not consistent discipline, building positive relationships with teachers, and, you know, be willing to talk to teachers and students, being willing to talk about those all kind of went hand in hand. You know, bullying, discipline, not having positive relationships between students and teachers should be lumped together, I think, for a culture thing. Our story or trend is that the kids are bored, there's not enough classes that they feel are worth taking, and that was something that we saw across the board. When we looked again at that one that compared to the parents and the high school students had the same story we saw on this.
Marilyn or Mike, anything to add?
Pardon?
Anything to add?
But just that, you know, well, the two things that, you know, are areas of improvement, and I think it's try to work on all the time, and that is, we know there's drug and alcohol. We know they're here. But direction for kids after high school, it's really, really hard to pin these kids down. From 8th grade, you know,
Yeah.
we had a class middle school, you know, to try to plan things. Get kids, you know, they take interest tests, they do all kinds of things, and it's hard to pin them down. And then, you know, first they start, you don't want to tell them what they can and can't take. You kind of try to direct them. But, you know, you have a kid that says, well, I want to be an engineer, but I want to be well, you know, so by the time they're juniors, you know, it's really hard to direct those kids because our kids, not just now, but they really don't know what they want to do. Graduate. There's a handful of them that do, but, you know, there's a lot of kids who started something. And I tell kids, start, you don't like it, do something else. Well, you know, just don't quit, you find something else, but if you're not a failure, you don't like that. So I think that's really, it is a huge job, and I there's a way to, like, the pathway sounds like a great idea, obviously. I think that's a huge thing in our school. Trying to help direct those kids. You
Yeah.
know.
At the same time, you know, that we have these pathways, and we were clear to in the pamphlet to say this, that just because you know, elect or you identify with this, or it speaks to you, this pathway, you're not stuck. you
Right,
know,
right.
in that. We're still a comprehensive like high school education where the exposure to everything is, you know, hopefully what's going to find or ignite passion for them. I was just also thinking that we hear a lot from like job fairs, career fairs, workplace skills, what do employers want? It's like, you know, that these kids are going to be doing jobs that we don't even know exist, right? So it's really hard to prepare them for those some of those niche things that are going on.
I think part of the classes, and granted, one thing that we did notice is only 23 parents responded. That's awful. In our whole school, in our whole team, 23 parents. And what was it for high school? Was it 40 something?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the involvement in these surveys is so minimal
Well,
that
it's like everything else too. You usually hear from squeaky wheels. So 23 of these, it's pretty positive considering most of those people have a concern. There's a lot of people out there that didn't take the survey that are going, yeah, everything's going great. I'm happy with the way it is, and they just don't do it. But, you know, it's good that you get some concerns, but like, that's what we're getting, and that's what is important. Hear it. But you don't hear anything about it.
I think we did. Maybe you guys remember this. Did we do it at open house one year? Did we have like Chromebooks set up and then?
they were doing it at extracurriculars, and you got a $5 voucher for the concession stand if you completed it. And I still don't think I still don't think a high rate turnover rate, because, I mean, they were set up and people saw you do it, whatever. And I think, and I don't know how it works, but I think people are scared to respond because they're scared somehow it is tracked. Like we were talking, the kids had to log in with their Gmail accounts, you know, to take it. And I know the parents are asked to put in their, or not Gmail, sorry, just their email accounts. But parents are asked to put in their email accounts too, and right there, that makes people suspicious.
Oh,
Even though
I
it
didn't know
says it's
that.
anonymous, why are we putting in email accounts? And the other thing that, and I know I talked to a couple kids about it, I talked to my mom friends about it, when you do them in set classes, you know, we're gonna do it in freshman English, whatever, it's a fear of, okay, this one was done at 9:30, which is the freshman English class, so this one is
Oh, okay.
probably this kid. And I know that's the fear with the student surveys, what do they call it, where, you know, the sex, drugs, rock and roll survey. That's the
We
fear.
don't do that one.
Right, but that's the fear with that one too, is that we're such a small school, is that if people were truly honest, because I don't think a lot of them are, they'd be able to narrow it down. I mean, we don't have a lot of diversity, you know, we're small. You can, you know, if something were to come out, you would be able to pinpoint it. So, I think that's one of the, you know, one of the thinkings behind not leading it too, is they don't want to be singled out or retaliated against, so. But, and I think the class thing is more advanced classes. I think there's a variety of classes, but I mean, we offer 8 PE classes, we offer a bunch of BOAG, and if you don't want to take those for 4 years, you know, there's not a lot of upper science, you know, math is math. So I think there's kids that do those. I think that's why the work student program is so important to these kids, you know.
And the other thing, yes, you know, like what Ireland said, the kids are excited, they know, but in what we do, we should be, in my opinion, is when there's no goofball class, whether you're in calculus working your butt off, or D, you're learning that it doesn't matter what class you're gonna work and you're gonna do this. And I think that's like a life skill that I'm trying to push them towards. Not, there's no get out of jail free.
Yeah, I think that's that Bell initiative, elimination of study halls. So some steps, but yeah, every class should be rigorous.
Yeah.
And a challenge. Right. Yeah. Okay. Joe, Jason.
Yeah, you're good public.
So we had the classified section, and we'll start off with the positives. That's all right. Positively. So the number one thing that came up for classified staff was the facilities issues being dealt with. So if anything springs up, it ranked really high in classified staff, that it is addressed. And the second highest was overall pride. I believe they were one of the highest groups in overall pride of the school. I think that's an extremely important question. If we're talking about school climate, overall pride, I think it encapsulates a lot of that climate with just one word. And so we're happy to see that with the classified staff. And moving on to some weaknesses. Number one, lowest feedback was on overall pay for the classified staff. It was much higher for the classified staff than it was for the teaching group still, but it was still the overall lowest for the classified. The next lowest category was overall approachability of the school board. And we also tied in that second weakness was the reliability of utilities, such as air conditioning, all those special utilities throughout the school facilities, the overall reliability of those ranked with approachability. And then one of the things that stood out to both of us, and I just found it pretty interesting, was the classified staff ranked the cleanliness of the school the lowest, and it was a pretty significant jump from teachers were the highest, parents were in the middle, and then our classified staff was pretty low on overall cleanliness, which I thought that was kind of an interesting trend. And I was wondering, is it because they move around classroom to classroom?
But yet they're proud, they're, the strongest is they're proud to be in our school
Right.
and
And
the
the facilities
facility
issues.
are dealt with. It just seems like every category contradicts, has contradictions.
Yeah,
But it's,
the way we were trying to kind of single out an area, but where are they coming up with this? What's something, what did we miss here?
Oh,
That's
so they're the one that, I mean, it's the janitor, right, classified staff would be
part
janitor.
of it, yes.
So are they maybe trying to tell you that something, some classrooms, some people, whatever, are way dirty, or the athletes, the whatever, and it's because of them that it gets clean, so they're proud of that, they clean it up, the school looks great, but they're kind of getting tired of having some filthy classrooms all the time because nobody picks up after themselves. I mean, that's, again, it's a question that needs to be, dug into, like, why did you guys feel this way? Is it because there are some teachers, classes, teams that are just, pigs, and we need to address that issue? So I think that's probably what it is.
Yeah, and my overall, when I first thought about it, I looked at it from a Paris side. And so it's, why would Paris think this? And it's like, well, they're going more rooms, and they aren't dictating the procedures within the classroom itself, something like that. But it is interesting, went straight to janitorial, which hold true.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, this is an area, but this, if the.
Classified stuff, that there's nobody in the school that travels around. Or a lot of classified
Yeah.
stuff, different areas, see stuff.
Bus charters classified too. Is
Yeah.
it basically everything but teachers
Yeah.
is classified?
Kitchen, terrace,
Okay.
bus showers. We got a lot more than 10.
Right, so
Right,
that's a
so
low,
10
that's a low rating too.
Yeah.
I mean, overall, it seems like if we could take everything from where each group is coming from and direct it down to that specific group. But then parents, how do you get more parents involved to get those specifics?
Oh.
The certified, yeah, the teachers, we can drill down and ask more specific the students, we can drill down and ask more specific questions. The certified or classified, whatever, rest of our wonderful teachers or whatever, drill that down and ask these specific questions. And then retake the whole survey again.
It's interesting because I was just having a conversation about this very topic. And I think with some categories too, the overall length of the survey, if you're not totally bought into the system or you don't have to take it, then you see the length and it's moving on. But so some categories, it's almost a positive to have less questions, more broad questions, just overall trends itself. But then like teachers, yeah, I think it'd be extremely helpful to dive in extreme detail. So I think just the varyingness of what works for one of these categories is not going to work for all.
And I think you need to break the parents up. You need to do K1, kinder 1 through 5, 6 through 8 in high school. And parents just need to do it for each kid because, you know, it's way too hard. You know, there's teachers that parents love and there's teachers, and you're going to get the bad side of things because that's what they want fixed. They don't want you to address the good teachers. They're doing great. Leave them alone. And so, you know, that's what you're getting in the parent survey. You're getting the stuff that they want corrected, not necessarily the stuff they want to praise.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be that way. I mean, no matter how you address the survey, that's how the parents are. Because, you know, you guys are supposed to be evaluating. We're just seeing what we want fixed. But I think getting more involvement with parents, you know, like I go to coffee and I'll admit I'm one of the biggest thorns in your guys' sight sometimes. But like the scholarship thing, Clark got to talking about scholarships and I'm like, I will help you with that. We went through hell with scholarships this year. Like I've been there, I've done that. Like let me as a parent, you guys come up with a new process. Let me as a parent look it over and say you're missing something, or you know, this is what worked great this year. This did not work at all. Like do some dry runs with parents and staff or kids or whatever before you make it how it's going to go and do trial by fire. You know, sit down and go over it and do something more involved, more engaged like that. I mean, I know it's hard dealing with difficult parents, but it's way easier to deal with us when we're involved with the process. And so we can see your guys' side because I want to be educated on what I'm missing. Like what exactly am I missing? Why is this the way it is? And why is it so infuriating to me? I would love to be educated on that kind of stuff because I'm sure there's stuff that I just don't even see. And I think a lot of parents that are angry about stuff are the same way. I think if we could somehow break that barrier down by engaging them on some of the stuff in this, it would be an educational, you know, thing for everybody. Yeah, a benefit for everybody. But I think that's how you get parents involved. That's how you get them on board.
So is this a reasonable, as we kind of like move into action? I think we need to come up with like some action, right? To run. I think it makes a lot of sense to look at this data with our teachers at one of our PFCs, right? And just foster the dialogue. You know, that okay, what do you think this was? You know, what do you suspect? I think that you could very easily, like I got a bus driver meeting coming up next week. I could very much bring the classified, you know, result. Hey, let's speak to this. I don't know how many of you guys filled it out, but and we could do that. You could invite groups of parents, right, to do that. Is that an action item? I'm happy to facilitate all of that. Is that good action? Or are we just spinning wheels?
The only thing I would throw out there, it seems like we forget about, I hear about it at home or wherever, but so we're talking about being the teachers more involved, parents more involved, classified staff. We never talk about having the students
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah.
And the students, because I do hear that a lot of the students, they don't think they have a voice. They don't think they are able to come to people and say, why are we doing this, or why
Yeah.
this isn't working for us or something. And I don't know if that's a student council thing or it's or where that goes, but I just don't want to forget about the kids either.
Yeah. Yeah, all those groups. Is that
It'd be something definitely to talk to your student council officers and get them involved and get them to help set it up. Because then they have ownership in it, you know? And I think if it comes from the kids to do that, and, you know, you can have your principal or you involved too, but I just think, when, you know, I know over the years, I mean, years ago, there were kids that if they went into the principal before they already walked in the door, they knew the answer was no, so they just didn't bother. I mean, that was 15, 20 years ago, but I know, because I was teaching then, so kids talked about it. And so I think if kids, you know, kind of spearhead that and get
And
some input and,
you know, and one thing with that, I think that's a great use for some of the student council
yeah,
stuff,
do
but,
council needs to
you know, maybe Mandy sits in with them and, because generally your student council is seniors, correct?
yeah, so,
So, you know, tell them, not just talking to your friends, you need to, when you guys do these kind of discussions, you need to get down in the freshman group and stuff, and talk to,
talk to the
Talk to
freshman
the
class,
whole
get a couple
bunch.
kids from there.
exactly.
I think if you're gonna do it with student council needs to be reinvented. Cause right now, one teacher, right, picks student council.
And they're all
No, that
seniors.
was,
Why did they all
That, I
that?
don't understand that either.
that was not done this year, Brandy. It was, the existing 7 got a vote, along with the advisory, but all the teachers got a vote to staff vote.
So student council should be representative of the students, right? Like when I was in high school, you had to get up and say, I'm running for president of student council because, and then the entire student body voted. And the person who won, but you ran for an office, you ran, you know, you had to tell them why. I don't think that-
grade, right? Not
Yes,
just
you could, anybody could run,
Freshman.
anybody could run. And it's still a popularity contest, obviously, because, you know, whatever, but I don't think the teachers should be selecting who represents the student body. I don't think that's fair at all. You know, I feel the same way about honor society. You know, honor society was done by one person for years and years and years, and that was not fair. How was it done this year?
It wasn't one person.
So,
Yeah,
so,
we-
you know.
We followed the bylaws, which were there, a committee
Yep.
was put together.
Yep, but
community
for
input.
years it was, you know, a sole judgment call by one, it was,
When our kids transfer.
so, you know, it was one person and that really, you know, screwed over a bunch of kids. Cause if you weren't liked by him, then you didn't get into honor society. And, you know, I feel the same way about student council. If the teachers don't like one kid, the vote's against them and that's not fair. Maybe the kids like that person because they are vocal, because they aren't scared to walk into your office and say, why do we do this? You know, they're not scared to talk.
Well, I think
And I think if we're gonna give them a seat at the table, then it needs to be student representation, like truthfully and not
maybe
teacher
it needs to be
representation.
all, maybe the teachers need to talk about it, but they, or have a vote, that the kids vote, because very honestly, you can't pick, you know, as teachers, you can't pick your school leaders. And they might not be the ones that you necessarily want, or they might be the partiers, but they are the ones that everybody's gonna listen to and follow.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
And I think that's
Those
how
are the
it,
kids that,
the majority is the majority of how it got there. So,
I mean, it's never, as long as I know, it's never been done that way, but it's certainly.
but if that's what we're gonna talk about for student involvement, then it needs to be truly student and not, you know, assigned by the school, student involvement, cause I think
But
that's
that's the student council does it, talk to the kids,
Yeah.
kids from each class. A good cross
So
section.
I asked you this before, the classes still have class presidents, they do all that, so the clubs still do all that.
President, vice, secretary, treasurer, and they have a class rep. So freshmen, sophomore, juniors, they vote class rep, which is responsible for that connection with the student council.
Does that ever happen though? I mean, no. So,
So they just don't go to the meetings. Huh?
well, do they have meetings? How does student council work right now?
Yeah, they have meetings, but they're not like every Friday of the month, or, you know, they're like, oh, we need to have a meeting. More like, we have something coming up to get done. It's certainly not methodical.
So I'm just trying to take away some action, and I don't know if we narrow there, we feel like that's the direction we want to go. So I was proposing that just very broad terms, right? Very broad terms that, I've come up with two kind of action steps here. Administration will engage And I put student council, but administration will engage students to dive deeper into the data to examine some trends. And then we kind of got into, I think, a recommendation, maybe retool student government. I don't know if that's the level of, if we want to set that direction at this level, but yeah, it's very, and I would agree with that. It's not a quote unquote traditional student government model here in Joliet. It never has been, right? And they're changing the names. They were student board and then student council. And I think what we do a good job is getting behind that crew, right, and allowing them to kind of shape it. And if you want to change the, you know, because you can't get, hey, we're gonna go. You can't get and tell students, especially when it's their senior year, right, that we're changing the model, right? You need to go back and select 3, and you need to do 3 because that whole thing will evolve,
How
But
many?
and they'll be obstinate to the process until we shut down.
But it is timely and easy to fix, like the class reps presence and those, you know, I mean, that's happening the first day of school.
And actually schedule meetings.
Yeah. Yeah, those are things that can be easily fixed as it evolves into a cleaner process
Yeah.
next year.
And are there like a set of bylaws or anything kind of that go with that?
There is, you know, in the handbook, there's, is it the teacher handbook? Or the student council duties, but there's a very clear outline of the process and the expectations,
Mhm.
what they're responsible for, but I've not seen bylaws.
Whatever, kind of
Yeah,
a guideline for them to
Yeah.
go by.
Well, middle school has one too, right?
just starting one.
They did for a while.
So was it not in existence for a while then? I just see it on the activities, finances all the time. But there's a middle school student council with lots of money in there. And they sell the blue books. I think that's where that money goes.
JMG or.
There
JMG
hasn't
is
been
a
a middle school student council since I've been here.
Okay.
I think what, yeah, like Ms. Bergen, they'll get in class and vote and have officers.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
have officers.
Yeah, they've got officers, but again, the structure is very much not traditional. You know, I don't think they're meeting.
No, but that is going into implementation this year with Ms. Goodrich.
But there will be a student council. So how is it designed? Is it only gonna be 8th graders? Is it gonna follow the high school model?
I don't want to give you bad information. I have all of that. Worked through in the spring,
Because I think it should follow the same thing. You know, when the
Yeah.
high school's gonna vote, then 6th grade needs to vote on who their student council is
but yeah.
and what they are gonna represent. I
And you're
guess.
giving the kids a constant as they move through the system.
Yeah, that's true. You're starting, they're learning it
Mhm.
And then
that way every day.
Yeah.
I mean, you could easily tell the seniors this year, your grandfather didn't, so enjoy it, but then the juniors next year already know, like, tell them right now, juniors, you know, don't expect us next year, because our model's gonna change. I think just the amount of time frame that you give people to process is just gonna make it easier to make a huge transition like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you tell them why, I mean, they're all gonna understand, yeah, it's a better system if it's not,
Which would be
Kindergarten teacher.
yeah,
the same with transition to work study, you know, to the next year. They have to do 4 periods, but we had to give them a year of lead time, you know, on that. Okay. So I'm feeling like reasonable action out of this is for Joey to go to his teachers with the survey at some point in time to engage in further discussion. For Mandy to do the same, you know, with her crew. I think it probably is better suited for me to go to some of those classified teams and have those discussions. I think you're building that sense of like self-efficacy that I have a say and I have some control. But I also kind of think there was another thing that might be a little bit more specific, that a vein that's kind of on that college and career readiness. That could be something, guidance program, that could be like a common SMART goal that comes out of this. Right, because it was so weak in the survey data, that maybe we could workshop that as a really strong takeaway.
I think it needs to be.
I feel like family and parent involvement, I mean, how many people filled out that survey just pretty much speaks for itself. I feel like, is there a way we can come up with a goal to just involve parents more?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Or even the community, I mean, maybe we can send the survey out to some members of the community that aren't parents.
Yeah, just stakeholder.
Yeah, I don't know, but I feel like if we, I don't know, at our elementary meetings, we kind of mentioned how we could do, instead of our open house where everybody just comes in and goes to their classrooms, if we actually had like an education evening, maybe section, so we don't have an overwhelming number of people, but we feed them, you have to feed families, people that come to school.
Yeah, that
But
helps.
if we did pizza, right, and then more like grade level, they're in school, like the admin gets up and talks. Maybe the special programs get up and talk, you know, to more of the general population. And then for the elementary, we talked about, well, that group of parents and kids then go to that specific classroom where that teacher could maybe do the survey with parents because they've got them more focused, and then could also just talk about specific things that are happening in their classroom. Then they can talk about iReady. You know what I mean? Just each teacher could almost specify. I mean, the model would look different for high school, obviously, but if we did a big open house where we invited all the families to come in and eat, but we focused them and educate them
Yeah,
on some things
yeah.
that our schools doing. Because the barbecue is good.
More-
People can come in.
Yeah, that's just.
But it's more just, hey, hi,
How's
drop your
that?
stuff off.
Yeah.
But maybe we could use that as a, you know, inform parents about things that we feel are important here that they need to know.
Yeah, here's what I think we should do. I'd like to walk away with that in this. So do you guys want to go with this group? Okay. Can you, so SMART goal is specific, measurable, I can put it up on the board, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Right, so you have to, you know, put all those kind of specific measures to it. Well, here's what I think, maybe take a break if you need to. We have until 12. SMART goal draft, right? It doesn't have to be perfect, but I think this crew right here focuses on college and career prep, maybe something in that guidance, true guidance. You're right. I think that could be something that's there. You guys want to do family engagement?
Or what was the other thing? Students, all the student involvement.
Yeah, but in that, or you could tackle that one too. Okay. Keeping in mind that we still have the action item that I wrote down was to specifically engage all of our like micro focus groups. Still, that's another thing. But I think these two, maybe family engagement and then guidance, just as an exercise. So we come out here with a tangible product. Okay, so you guys go there. There you go.
There you go. Go team. Joey, will my, part of it yours?
There's this one too.
So specific is make your goal specific and narrow. For like improved career planning is too broad, right? Too broad. You start, but then measurable. Make sure you have goals or progress are measurable. We're gonna do 2. We're gonna do 3. We're gonna do 4. Achievable is just a checkbox. Make sure you can reasonably accomplish the goal within a certain time frame. Relevant. It's relevant with our values. I think we already checked. I think the A and the R are just checkboxes, and we've got that time based. When's the deadline? To get these things done. I think a really good one could just be the idea that's already thrown out, an entry and an exit thing. Keeping in mind it's a 4-year thing, so what does it look like year 1? If that's the direction you guys want to go.
How long do the kids have to register? What is each class time slot? Is it 2 hours, 8 to 10, and then 10 to 12?
I think it's 8 to 11:30 or 8 to noon.
So it's pretty,
And then,
is like sophomores, right?
yeah, so it starts seniors, then juniors, then the juniors would have 12:30 to 4.
So they have roughly 3 or 4 hours to register kids.
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking, instead of just a mass line, do it scheduled appointments.
Yeah,
So like parent teacher conferences, you would have a 15-minute block of time to sit down
yeah.
and go over what you want and why, and where you're at.
And what would really be incredible is if you actually, if it were feasible to solidify a high school schedule in May.
Yeah.
And sit down with those kids in May, and even though, you know, there's gonna be changes, even with the kid or the parent, but at least have a rough, they've seen it.
That's
They could come there, right?
Going
This is what we're
into-
gonna do next year.
How does it work going into spring? Like there's classes that are only offered fall, so do the kids get a completely new registration? Or is it just if you wanna change, come see me and I'll put you in whatever
It'll
class?
be, what it should be is when they're doing at registration, and if they're taking a course, it's just in the fall, the childcare or something like that, but they're already projecting next week, what am I gonna take in January? Because that's gonna be over, so what is offered then? Like that conversation.
But there is no set time, like in December before first semester ends, there is no set time where the sophomores go in and meet
No.
again and re-register.
No, not a set time, they're just, I
It's
guess,
just if a change needs to be made,
Yeah.
you need to be thinking about that change.
yeah,
And the same in middle school, right?
right,
So,
5 days.
so in the middle school, from what I've gathered in sixth grade, there is no registration. They go in on day one and they're expected just to know what to do, right?
Well, they middle school meets homeroom first thing out of the gate, first day, and that's where they would elect, their only real elect option in middle school is band or choir. or
Right.
volleyball. Right. And they make that choice, still have room within that first 5 days to make changes, but they get their schedule.
Mhm.
Like, this is where I go. Matter that.
So would it make sense for middle school to have a
They
registration?
don't have that choice.
Because
Even though there's a
you're
part
either
that says
gonna
the
play
elective,
band or not,
exactly.
right.
So it's, that's,
Right, band and choir are the only two choices, ultimately, okay?
okay.
I've heard a lot of parents ask for, I don't know, do parents have to sign for students to be able to change?
Yeah.
their classes?
It depends on the teacher. That's another thing that.
Yeah, because
that's
there's
true.
some kids that's changed and their parents have no idea, and the parents are like, if I would have known that my kid was dropping band to do weights, you know, I wouldn't have agreed.
Well, they might
with
have
that.
had it forged.
You know, but yeah, that's the thing, like.
We get
Facebook
that.
is, like, engaged.
What's that? Sounds chapstick. But, so they do have to get permission. Do the parents have to sign?
No, they don't. I've never had to sign anything on the schedule for any of my kids.
Yeah, there's.
And the counselor then, they shouldn't change their, because they have to change it in their campus too. I mean, or whatever, the schedule. They have to change it. So when they do their original, registration, does that have to be signed by the parent?
In the past, the high school literally has come home with the master schedule. Or no, it gets mailed out. The master schedule gets mailed out. And they literally circle the classes and then they go into Mr. Turford, whoever's doing it, and they say, this is my schedule. And he goes,
Okay. Their original registration?
I don't know that form has been changed in 20 years.
I don't think so.
But then you run into the parents who don't care.
Then the kids will forge their signatures.
And
Well,
then,
I know.
then the kid is stuck because they're supposed to have, you know,
I think at high school, kids need to be taught some critical thinking. And so if you're dropping a class, you've made that decision. And my stance as a parent is I'm not going to fight you to do your work. You're not going to drop out. You're going to go to school. It's an expectation. But I'm not going to force you to take VOAG if you don't want to take VOAG. And I didn't force them to take band. You know, they did it 1 year, whatever. They had that experience. But I'm not a parent that thinks I need to sign off on my high schooler stuff. Now, Paxton wanted to drop band and we didn't sign anything. And, you know, I ended up having to call Mandy because Paxton got his butt chewed by the teacher because apparently she required it. And so that is something that the school needs to iron out. So the kid's not in the middle. And that's where I think a lot of parents end up getting upset is there's a disconnect between this expectation and this expectation and the kid gets caught in the middle. And then the parent comes in and has to say enough's enough.
But I feel like you're gonna be better protected if you're over you know what I mean? Like you ask for permission from the parents that want to be asked for permission, because the parents that don't care aren't gonna care.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of parents that want their signature on that piece of paper because they want to have a communication, that
Yep.
conversation with their kids.
Yep, and I'm fine with having to sign it, just we were told we didn't have to, and
Yeah.
so it was a disconnect there, but,
Yeah.
just
Well,
the consistency.
Also, there needs to be in the counselor, the person that's doing the counseling, guidance counseling, stuff like that. They need to be a lot more involved, in my opinion, kind of like you used to be. Well, you do more of that, and you have other stuff. But, I mean, if a kid comes in, or if a kid knows that I want to change class, you're gonna have to go in front of the counselor, you have to sit down at the desk. And that counselor's gonna talk to them and say, why are you doing this, whatever, I think it's the best fit for you, or whatever, and then when it's all said and done, if they are changing it, then the counselor says, all right, well, I'm gonna get hold of your parents. And let you know what we came up with, we're gonna see what they have to say. That's all,
More of a
it's just
formal
more
process.
involved, I mean, that's what you used to do.
Yeah.
There, you probably had the form, there was a form where it said class you dropped, class you
And then, yeah, that should,
It's just involved,
yeah,
it's just
communication.
communication.
What's-
Best.
What's the process for registering for honors reading classes? How are you justified as a student going into one of those classes? What's the requirement?
The kids, my question is, how do
You
kids even know about?
I mean, I think they do
Said, hey, we have this opportunity. They looked for it themselves because they'd heard from other students.
That's where I'm saying there's no guidance.
Yeah.
The 1, 2, 3, we didn't know about until this year, and we only knew because Casey couldn't find a class last year, so Mandy finally was like, why isn't he taking college classes? I call it a need to know. The school decides if you need to know, and if your kid isn't on the need to know list, you just don't know about it. Cause like the seniors can do 1, 2, 3 this summer. I don't know that any of the seniors were told that you
I
can
still
still
know that because Bretland did it, so I went and asked for a porter.
we went and looked it up all ourselves and got things, but like, there's lots of stuff that literally is, oh, I don't want to say handpicked, but only certain people know about it, like moving kids up to the next level of math classes when they're in junior high, that was never given us an option. He could do 8th grade math as a 6th grader if he sat at his desk, but he was never given the option to go to the 8th grade math room and actually do 8th grade math. Well, then here we find out that's happening. We had the Mandy was taking students, and she's like, why didn't anyone have this conversation? You know, it's stuff like that.
Are you ready?
Yeah,
It's
sorry.
But is there requirements, like, do they just get to say, I wanna try honors English, and they're.
Yeah, there's not outlined requirements, at all, I would say, Brandy. I think that the kids that are honestly wanting to do the AP or APEX AP or the VATE,
Mhm.
they have any other criteria that they might need, like they're already driven or have those 4 freshman and sophomore classes that are gonna help them succeed. I think it would probably, I would hope a teacher or a counselor is having a conversation if they've taken 6 periods of art and weeds, that maybe you wanna better prepare yourself for AP environmental science.
Right. But you know, I'm doing that job to see if someone's taken 7 weights classes in high school.
Well, they're transferring.
Are they?
Yeah. And I think some of that is putting some ownership back on kids. I mean, I know by the time my kid's a junior, she's well aware of what I have, and I'm gonna expect that as a parent. You know,
I guess-
you're 17.
Yeah, I guess just, you know, I was more, I guess, asking you like the honors, let's honors price, right? Does he get to say, does he get to say, no, these are the only kids I want honors English because we go at a faster pace and these ones can't keep up, like.
There are some, I would say definitely your sophomore, junior English is gonna lead to.
Or that
even your
business
junior
provider or
years.
whatever, yeah. I mean, or is the teacher just stuck with whoever gets rolled and if he has to slow the whole class down?
No, it's very much like if you have more title-based test scores, previous grades, that's outlining who's your mainstream junior English and your more accelerated kids. And the curriculum is different. It's a faster pace.
If the regular mainstream, if there's a kid that wants to do the AP, can
I mean,
they? They can.
they can't. So they unless
Well,
that was-
AP and honors are different, right?
AP and honors.
I mean, honors.
AP is like a dual credit, whereas honors is
Honors is faster,
faster.
and I know sometimes as a parent, if you're like, well, my kid is not going to be able to be successful in this class. And the teacher's like, no, your kid is successful, they will be fine, you know. So, I mean, I don't think the teachers handpick, but I think they also know the kids. And all kids act differently in school than what they act at home.
Yeah, I guess I was more asking,
Yeah.
were there kids getting into the classes that maybe shouldn't be there, so it's frustrating for the teachers?
Yeah.
It was more my question, like, what, who gets to make that call? Are the teachers involved to make that call, or is it just
Yeah,
the
they're
guidance counselor gets to say, sure, you can take on all the
They're
action
involved.
stuff?
But I don't think it's any one person, I think it's kind of like the team of people making the splits. And I've actually seen it the other way, Brandy, where a kid was placed in honors, didn't want to be, wanted to be in the service, and the teacher very much like, no, you need to, like, you will succeed, and at the end of the day, the kid went out of honors, right, because that's what the kid and the parent wanted. So it's not-
I think that's their decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just more leaning towards the what's the criteria for you, yeah. For knowing that you can move at this fast pace, that
Right.
you are ready, was there something that,
yeah, no.
all right. Sorry, Jason.
I gotta go to work.
College career, goal, family goal. 12 minutes.
I just teach her all the.
So career path, guidance counseling. Fail.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what SMART means again?
Yep.
An EP is basically just like, it feels the same credit.
No, I think I was.
Post-secondary.
I know they're all saying, I would say, yeah. That's That's important stuff. That's not okay. High school.
You, and you get, but you get. Okay.
Yeah, so that'll, that's GPA.
It's still up.
Jen, I think you would want, I think it's college, I don't know how you do it.
It's almost like they don't want to get out of school, you know, so it.
And then you do want to think about it, but we were saying that earlier, it'd be really a great moment because. Administration.
Very much in our
So you just don't know where it's going to.
in the last year. I don't think they have to pick a job. I think that they bake off of their strengths. So I think a guidance counselor should be able to say, wow, you're really strong here. You know, let's look at these classes here, and like bake off of each kid's strength. If you see a kid's mechanical, you know, wow, geez, that, whatever that way. Like, that's my vision of it.
How that, that's going to.
But let's do a quick share out of kind of where you're going, and then I'll take those and put them onto our document. But Joe, you want to share out a little bit of where you guys are pointing me?
Yeah, so we have the topic of post-graduation readiness, career and college readiness. And we kind of zeroed in on the topic of information over courses available to the students and the families. So how do we get that information compiled and shared out so kids and their families can make the choices right for them? And so we focused on creating some sort of document, either hyperlinked or ideally hyperlinked, but the basis of it is just starting the process of making sure each class has a minimum of 4-sentence paragraph summarizing their class, and then compiling that into a formalized document so kids can just really know what each class offers.
And parents.
And parents,
Yeah, I love it.
And I think that's
Love it.
good because, you know. Sorry. Oh, the school is growing, you know, and it's not the same families in the school that know, well, it's just math, you know. So we do need to grow, and we're just trying to catch up with that growth, coming up with all of these ideas.
I think a course catalog, yeah, is probably long overdue here, and I think it pairs nicely with everybody will start to see it soon. That pathways, that registration document. Okay, so I'm supposed to take, you know, whatever for my fine arts thing. I'm supposed to take all these. Okay, then go to the catalog and see what actually that class is. I think those pair really well together, and this would be a big step in that direction. Okay, Joey, give me that draft of that document, and I'll put it in with our stuff. What do we have?
We kind of played with two ideas, so they were more specific, maybe one specific goal that will be, we want to increase our parent survey numbers. More parents, and then
Perfect.
kind of a partner goal with that is, we want to increase, communication, and more involvement from parents at the K-12 level in general, just so we can give more guided information specific to teacher expectations for that year and activities pertaining to each specific grade level.
And the idea, I don't know if you guys heard, it was kind of like not necessarily open house, because open house is its own thing and it's just kind of informal. But perhaps there could be
Orientation.
for every, like, hey, this is 8th grade year, here, you know, blue books. You know, kind of like high level overview with that crew and that particular grade level, so you know what's upcoming, right? It's not gonna answer all the questions, but you can put a bunch of information out, you know, onto the table that way when 8th grade, there's 8th grade graduation, that, you know, that's gonna be in May, so be on the lookout for that. I really like that. Mostly happen in small groups.
I like that idea, because
Yeah.
first time senior parent here, I didn't have a clue.
Right.
Everyone was like, we've done this for years. It's like, great, I've never had a senior. So,
Yeah.
No,
I
yeah.
don't have the seniors on the university.
Yeah. So I think there's lots of expectations for what people should know, because you guys do it every day, but we don't. So I think having something that's awesome.
And I think it changes over the years too. I mean, yeah, you had a senior years ago, 7 years ago. Now you have another one, but it seems like all the rules have changed,
Yeah.
you know? All those unwritten rules.
And that's what they are. Yeah. It's the pictures. Marlena texted me, it's like, I don't have a baby picture. I'm like, for what? Nobody told me you
We
needed
did.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. And as much as we want our seniors to be communicative, they're almost worse than the first graders. Oh, yeah, didn't I tell you that?
Okay, let's do this. Let's bring break. I will dial everything up a little bit. I think we have some reasonable direction already. So I think what we could do, and feel free to call me, text me, feedback or anything like that. I will compile these, make sure we have a direction. I think whole group email, you know, some sort of a draft. I don't know, in all honesty, if I'll get this into the, I can update I can get this in August board packet, actually. I'm kind of like thinking about what we've done. I have a summary available for that. But I won't call this group back together until we've started to take some action. So we can kind of see what direction it's going. Okay, thank you guys very much for your time.
We tackled a lot.
It's okay, there we go. You got it for now.
Sorry.
I can go camp unless we can clear heads.
Where you guys going?
We're gonna go to, Yellowtail.
Oh, sorry.
So
Did you shut us down,
we're
Mark?
going back up there too.
We're going there.
Well, Wade's gonna leave now, or here pretty soon, and